guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and I am going to do just like a brief reading update because I completely forgot to vlog this past week. I think I started on Sunday, as I usually do, and then just like I completely forgot. I don't really know what happened there. But I don't want to fall out of the habit of doing reading vlogs because I really like doing reading vlogs. So I'm going to do this, and then hopefully next week we'll just kind of pick up and pretend this never happened. So since we last chatted, I have finished 3 books. So it would have been a really great week to vlog if I had remembered. And I'm currently reading like 4 more, which is slightly just, yeah, that's just, I feel like that's just me. So to talk about the books that I read first, I most recently finished Tarnished City by Vic James. So this is the second book in the Dark Gifts trilogy, and I read Gilded Cage during one of these reading vlogs a couple weeks ago, which I can link below, and I wasn't hugely impressed by the first half, but by the sort of end of it, I felt like it really picked up and it had a lot of promise continuing onward, and that's absolutely true. This really it's like unrelentingly just action-packed and awful in the best way possible, I feel like. And this might be a bit of a bold statement because I haven't finished the third one. I haven't even started the third one. But I feel like there's so many YA authors out there who are like, ooh, you guys are gonna be so heartbroken by the end of my book and I'm gonna kill everyone and ooh, no one is safe. And then they kill off the character who has like maybe a maximum of 10 lines and like everyone else survives. And I'm like, that's not being like edgy and dark and like, you know, breaking your readers' hearts like at all. Like I feel like there are some authors who I will not name, who are particularly bad for this, and they're like, ooh, I'm gonna be so bad, and then they're just not. Vic James actually, like, lives up to this. It's not so much necessarily that she kills off all of her characters, but she does things that are awful to her characters. And you know what? I love that so much. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy this. I had a little bit of trouble kind of like getting back into the world because it's so similar to our own, and for fantasy it tends to, you know, not be, so I'm not quite used to that. But I did really end up enjoying this. The next book that I read this week was a massive disappointment. So I read The Caged Queen by Kristen Ciccarelli, and I was really hopeful for this one. So I read The Last Namsara last year, and I can link my review to that below. It's an early review, so if it's not very good, don't judge me. But I liked The Last Namsara a lot, and I liked the world, and I liked the characters, but I hated the romance. I thought the romance was really, really problematic. So I was very excited to hear that this was going to be continuing on with a different set of characters. So I went and like filmed a bunch and then realized that I spoiled like the entire first book. So I'm cutting all of that out. All you need to know about Caged Queen, if you haven't read the first book, is that it follows a different set of characters. There's a girl named Roa who's kind of a minor character in the first book. She's really not in it very much, but she was very interesting to me, and her love interest. I was expecting her to be this awesome character because she can write like badass amazing women. Like Asha from the first book is incredible, and Sapphire, who is her cousin, is also completely amazing. And I was expecting that for Roa, and that was just not the case at all. And while I like a lot of the world building that she does, I absolutely love her world and her cultures. There's something about it that feels so incredibly real, despite the magic and the dragons and the, you know, old stories that are actually true. I love all of that so much, and I usually love her characters, but I hated Roa so much because, like, and this is not going to bother most people as much as it bothers me, so if you want to pick this up, then definitely do. But this is one of those books where, like, I'd say 85 to 90% of the conflict could have been resolved if they actually just, like, sat down and had a conversation with each other, particularly character tensions that end up sort of affecting the plot. She needed to put her pride aside and just be like, hey, this thing that you're doing, I don't like this thing that you're doing. And then he'd be like, what? And she'd be like, what? And then everything would be resolved. Like, I hate that so much. It's one of the things that drives me absolutely insane, and usually when that happens in books, I DNF them, and I did manage to make it through this one. My other problem is that Roa is possibly one of the dimmest characters I've read. We're told that she's like this brilliant strategist and she's, you know, so amazing at like swordplay and she's this badass woman. She like did all these amazing things. There's no evidence for that in her actual like interactions with other characters, and we see this through her point of view. There's no indication that she's good at anything other than messing everything up, and I really was so disappointed in her because I loved her in the first book. Very, very little we saw of her was awesome, and I just like, I'm so mad at her. I gave this 2 out of 5, or maybe 2.5 out of 5 stars. The sort of amazing, beautiful world building and the cultures really kind of saved it, but I hated the main character, which is a big problem. And it's one of those books where if they just like spoke to each other, everything would have been fine. So enough ranting about that. The next book that I read was Career of Evil by Robert Galbraith. So this is the 3rd Cormoran Strike book, and I did this on audiobook, which I would highly, highly recommend because the narrator is fantastic. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It's interesting because I've read some crime novels, and I like crime novels a lot, but I feel like for the most part, you don't, maybe I'm just reading the wrong ones, but you don't get the same kind of levels of character development as you do with Robert Galbraith, J.K. Rowling's books. I really feel like the relationship between Cormoran and Robin is fantastic, and they've like such a level of respect for each other even when things kind of get really difficult, and I love Robin. This is like Robin's book, so if you like her, she's really, really fantastic in this one. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the 4th one. I've heard that maybe things go off the rails a little bit in the 4th one, but I am still looking forward to reading it. My parents have a copy of it, so I have to pick it up from them. Right, so now all of the books that I'm currently reading, because apparently I can't be stopped. The first one that I'm reading is The Whispering Skull by Jonathan Stroud. This is the 2nd book in the Lockwood & Co. series, which I love. And if you haven't read these and you like kind of spooky paranormal books, they're amazing. They're kind of like the younger end of YA, but they're so well written. They're so sharply witty and just fantastic and wonderful, and they're actually really, really fucking scary. The ending of the first one is like absolutely terrifying. I thought, I'm a huge wimp though, so people might not agree with me on that one, but I love these so much. I'm only like 50 pages in. I'm hoping, this is kind of like the low priority for all the books that I'm reading. I'm hoping to finish it in October because this is like a spooky book, so that's kind of perfect. I swore to myself, as I think I've said in maybe my August book haul, that I need to read all of my Fairy Loot books before the next ones arrive, because I don't read Sophia just sneezed. I don't know if you heard that. I need to read my Fairy Loot books before the next ones arrive, or else I can't get Fairy Loot anymore, which would be very sad. So I am going to read and finish these Rebel Waves. I'm about 100 pages in right now. I can definitely see why this book is getting so many mixed reviews. It's interesting and I love the kind of political situation, everything that's happening, but there are 2 big kind of issues with it so far. The first, okay, it's called These Rebel Waves. It's got this kind of like oceany theme, piratey theme. It was in the like pirate themed Fairy Loot box. Everyone is saying pirates, pirates, pirates. This book is about pirates. This book is not about fucking pirates. There's like these like raiders who you see who kind of like, you know, go around stealing the sort of magical plants in this particular land on rivers, but there's no like seafaring in this book. No one's been on a freaking boat so far. I'm 100 pages in, and it's basically just like a book that happens after a revolution, and it's all about sort of healing after the revolution. You know, bad things are still going on. The sort of attempted conqueror is still up to stuff, and it's not a pirate book. It's not a pirate book, and I feel like they completely are misleading people with this, unless in the next 350 pages or so we get some serious pirating. It's kind of misleading. The other thing about this is that not only does everyone have a nickname, like everyone has a nickname, there are all these sort of like, you know, I feel like YA characters tend to get very sort of complex names. So it's like, what, Devereaux is one, we have Bennett, and we have Adeluna, who's our heroine, and they all have nicknames. It's like Lou, Dex, and Ben, and it's really hard sometimes to tell who we're talking about because everyone else also has nicknames, and I feel like unless it's a Russian novel, like, stick to the one name, you know? I'm finding it a little bit confusing. I'm getting used to it now that I've sort of gotten further in. But also, the other issue with it is that it's very info-dumpy. So, like, say Luna, our main lady character, is talking to someone, and it'll be like 3 lines of dialogue and then 2 pages of this is the backstory, and then she'll continue on with like maybe 3 lines of dialogue, then we'll get another page and a half of backstory, and it's just like, it's a bit much. I feel like it's really interesting, and I really like the history and the magic and the worlds and all of this, but there must have been a better way to do this. What do we got next? We have After Atlas by Emma Newman. You may recognize the name. Planetfall is one of my favorite books that I've read this year, and I keep rambling on about how amazing it is. This is the 2nd book in the Planetfall series, and these are companion novels rather than sort of straight up sequels. So this is about the son of one of the people who went on the spaceship Atlas in the 1st book. So this is kind of life still on Earth, and there's a murder that happens. He's a police officer. He's been involved in this kind of crazy cult. We don't know much about it yet. This is my audiobook read, and it's really good so far. I went ahead and looked about how far in I am, and I'm about 52 pages in or so. I am really enjoying it. I love her books so much. This is sort of my TBR project of getting the audiobooks of books that have been on my TBR for a very, very long time, and I haven't had a chance to read yet. So this is like, fits in perfectly, and the other books I've done that with were like Nevernight and Children of Time and Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. So like, this is working out really, really well for me. I love the audiobooks of all of these. I'm hoping to have this done hopefully sometime this week. That would be really nice. It's only about 12 hours long, which is the shortest I've listened to in a long time. So the last book that I'm reading is very different from everything else that I've got on this list. This is The Lake House by Kate Morton. So Kate Morton is a historical women's fiction author. She's very, 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 very popular. And this is actually recommended by Author Sister. And I have been wanting to kind of read a little bit more into that genre because that is now what Author Sister writes. So this is a split time narrative. It takes place, I think one is 1933 and the other is 2003. There's this house in Cornwall. We get the sort of point of view of this girl named Alice, who is one of the daughters of the family that owns this house. And she loves it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. She never wants to leave. She's so incredibly happy. She's like 16 or so. The next sort of timeline is a character named Sadie. Sadie's a police officer, and she's done something to screw up. So she's kind of stuck on a sort of forced holiday. So she's gone down to Cornwall to stay with her grandfather, and she is running through the woods one day and comes upon this sort of crumbling, abandoned, but must have at one point been beautiful house. We know that this is the house that Alice lived in. The other point of view in 2003 is Alice herself. She's a very successful crime writer, and we know that something bad has happened. So all of these sort of timelines and points of view are going to come together at some point, and we are going to learn a little bit more about what happened. I love books like this. I really, really do, and I love this sort of split time narratives when they are really all intriguing, because sometimes they're not necessarily, but I am really like completely sucked into the story so far. When I finish these Rebel Waves, because I want to finish it hopefully before the next fairy loot box comes sometime this week, I'm really going to focus on The Lake House. It's 600 pages, so it's a little bit longer than some of these other ones. I think I'm on like page 88 or something like that, so I'm not very far, but I'm definitely making progress. Got some book post. Hold on, let's go over here. I like reading vlogs because I get to run all over my room. I'm shutting the door because the cats keep trying to break in. So what have we got? I received a couple things. One was a pre-order and one is a proof. So first of all, check this out. This is Sisters of the Winter Wood, and this is by Raina Rossner. So this sounds incredibly sort of like Baron the Nightingale-esque. So it takes place, I believe, in the Ukraine, and it's one of these sort of historical fantasy novels. I think it's inspired by Christina Rossetti's Goblin Market story as well, which, like, I studied in college and I'm very, very into. So, this is, first of all, lovely and gorgeous. This is one of my pre-orders. I'm really looking forward to reading this. I've read one of my many pre-orders that's come in just because I've been so overloaded with books and reading, which is never a bad thing, but doesn't always mean I get to read things when they come in. I am going to save this for when it is much more wintry out because this is going to be super atmospheric and wonderful. This is going to be an interesting one. So this is Rejoice. This is by Steven Erikson. So Steven Erikson is well known amongst the adult fantasy community. He wrote a series called Malazan Book of the Fallen, which I could not get into. I tried like 100 pages in the first one, and I was like, why? It's super complicated, it's super complex, unnecessarily so, I think. I liked some of the parts that I read, but it just was clearly not for me. So this is actually a sci-fi book, so this is not part of Malazan. And this looks really, really interesting. So it says here that it's a novel about first contact. An alien AI has been sent to our solar system as the representative for 3 advanced species. Its mission is to save the Earth's ecosystem, and the biggest threat to that is humanity. But we are also part of the system, so the AI must make a choice. Should it save mankind or should it wipe it out? This sounds fabulous. This sounds fantastic. I love these kinds of books, and I'm very, very excited to read this. This will be out in the UK on the 18th of October. This is from Gollancz. I'm really interested in this, despite not liking his fantasy, which is very sort of, what's the phrase? It's very Marmite. So some people love it and some people hate it. I think this is going to be much more my speed, so I'm looking forward to this. Right, that's it for this reading update. We're back to vlogs this week. I will hopefully not forget to vlog. But it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks because I have some bookish things coming up. So this weekend coming up will be a like blogger brunch in London for Hotkey Books, which is a YA publisher, and then the week after that I'm actually going to be in Birmingham to meet up with some book bloggers and some booktubers, so that should be really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to them both. I think that it is going to be a very busy couple of weeks, but they should make for some good vlogs, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, despite not really doing the vlog thing very well, I would love to know what you guys read this week, what you guys have picked up, if you've read any of these books, if you have a recommendation for anywhere for me to start with some of the books that I haven't read yet. I'd really love to hear from you. I'd really love to hear what you think. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so if you like this video, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.